The psalmist reminds us, the law of the Lord is perfect, refreshing the soul. The decree of the Lord is trustworthy, giving wisdom to the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The command of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eye. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The statutes of the Lord are true, all of them just. My dear brothers and sisters and members of the state legislature, remind you that G.K. Chesterton once wrote, "The object of a new year is not that we should have a new year, it is that we should have a new soul." A fresh start, in other words. This morning at this annual Red Mass, we invoke the help of the Holy Spirit upon the work of our public officials in all branches of government, but especially as we begin this first regular session of the 66th Idaho Legislature. We do this as men and women of faith, but also as elected officials and all of us as citizens. We do this also without apology. It should not be strange to find American citizens unselfconsciously at prayer. We see our founding fathers that they've done something right, maybe more than one thing right, but they did more so than what their contemporaries in old continental Europe did not do right. Our founding fathers got it right when they secured religious freedom for themselves and their posterity by recognizing in the Bill of Rights a distinction between religious authority and state power. There would be no religious test for public office. The state would not be the arbiter of religious claims. However, their intent was not to exclude people of religious faith from the public square. Far from it. Their intent was that all people of all religious faiths be included in that public square. Our founding fathers, in separating church from state, did not mean to separate religion from society, nor did they wish to inhibit religion from prospering. Our gospel today tells of the call of the first disciples, the call of the first disciples. After his baptism, Jesus went continuing his work by drawing his disciples, their calling, their vocation. You too have a vocation, a calling, as ministers of the law, as ministers of truth and justice. There's a maxim attributed to Aristotle some 300 years before Christ, ubi homo ibi societas, ubi societas ibi jus, ergo ubi homo ibi jus. That is, where a man is or where people are, there is society. And where there is society, there is law. And therefore, where people are, there is law. For you see, the ancient Greeks and Romans, law was synonymous with the concept and the ideal of justice. Indeed, our legislators are ministers of law, of justice, and of truth. Today, the church and God's people honor the vocation entrusted to you, legislators. And this is a day for you to remember why you chose to become lawmakers, to reflect on how you can become more effective servants of the truth and of justice and of the common good. Many complex and, as we've seen, sometimes volatile issues face our great nation and our great state. And you are aware, most keenly, of the public scrutiny in which you are held and the many demands placed upon you and your work. You know it is not easy. It was not easy for those first disciples either, though. The Lord told them, and tells us, to travel lightly. That is, not to be bogged down by those obstacles that prevent us from freely, serenely, and joyfully carrying out the work, the mission entrusted to us. As you carry out that mission of being servants of truth and justice, you might sometimes be weighed down with a sense of feeling isolated and alone. Well, today this Mass is to remind you that you are not alone, and to remind you that the Lord indeed sent out those first disciples 2 by 2, helping them and us remember that we are not in this alone. Be thankful then for your colleagues and help each other carry the burdens you share, and rejoice in the knowledge that the Church and God's people pray continually for you, asking the Lord and to send His Holy Spirit upon you to give you divine wisdom and consolation. Rely on those prayers. You are not alone. But remember also your own personal prayer life. I think that's essential for you too. Your mission as servants of truth and justice may at times also be weighed down by anxiety and perhaps even downright fear, especially as you remain true to the essential tasks and work of protecting the sacredness of all human life every moment, of upholding the dignity of each and every human person without exception, of safeguarding our greatest freedom, religious freedom, of protecting the sanctity of marriage and family as Jesus teaches us, of being a voice for the poor and the vulnerable and the weak. Because when you carry out this great task, the crowd is not always with you. No doubt you will meet resistance and sometimes criticism. And you would be fearful if you were trying to do this alone. But I guess that's my point. You're not alone. Your presence here today acknowledges the primacy of God in your life. He is with you. May you always know that. May you always feel His presence.